And we're coming to you live for the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are in the free Odyssey app. Good Monday morning. Start of one of the last two summer weeks we have. Yes, I know summer goes into September technically, but these are the last two summer weeks as we head into Labor Day, and then we will get to the Tuesday after Labor Day, which really is the first day of school for us as well, as you're focusing on football, and the NFL opens 2 days after that, and I have not anticipated that Tuesday after Labor Day more in my life than this year. And that is not hyperbole. That's not me making it up. What we do for a living has been destroyed by the Mets and Yankees, and we need to get to football season. They are not interesting in any sort of way, and the Yankees actually became even more of a talking point this morning because they got swept, and now they're 9 games out. So I guess they're a little better than irrelevant. They're irrelevant because, or they are relevant because they've been so bad. But my Lord, do we need the Jets and the Giants? We need them bad, playing real football games. We need them to be good. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Gee, what's up? I'm ready. You know what? This weekend, for whatever reason, with the football and the preseason football, it's awful.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there Saturday night and working the Cowboy game on Saturday, and I'm thinking, you know what? It's time. The baseball for us in New York is dead. Has been dead. It is dead. And so let's go. I'm ready to see Aaron Rodgers on Saturday night. I'm ready. Saw Daniel Jones the other night. Looked good.
He looked really good.
And I'm with you. I was trying to think driving in this morning what someone would have said if, in this room, had we said back in February, we will be sitting here on August 20th, and the Mets and the Yankees don't have a prayer's chance in hell of making the postseason.
Yeah.
On August 21st.
That's right. So basically, it's like a 1.5% chance for both of them right now, according to FanGraphs. And the Yankees have a 0% chance of getting to the World Series. And the Mets actually have like a 0.5% chance to get to the World Series.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. Apparently a little bit of one, at least for the Mets, who won 3 out of 4. But who cares about that? And I was joking around, a buddy of mine, Patrick Winters, he went to a bachelor party in St. Louis this past weekend.
They got 3 wins?
Right. So they based it around, just funny how that works. In the game that they went to where they got a suite, the Mets ended up winning. But they had planned this months and months in advance, and it turned out they're going there when both teams are totally dead, 2 of the worst teams in the National League. But the Mets did get a win for the Mets fans who went out there, but whatever. They are done. But, yeah, this is going to be all about the football teams coming up. And I mean, I didn't think it was going to get this bad for the Yankees. I thought they'd sort of like hover around and sort of be there, be 4 or 5 games out. But, after this weekend now, getting swept by the Red Sox, I mean, everything that we talked about as far as them shutting down Aaron Judge and just punting and moving on from this season and focusing on next year and what big changes you're going to make, well, it now has happened because I don't care what anybody says, Aaron Boone, we got to get a win, maybe we go on a run, something special happens, he has to say that, but they are officially dead. And I'm just really curious because the last number of off seasons, they had an opportunity to change this team in big ways, meaning Brian Cashman didn't have a contract at the end of last year. It was the perfect time to make a change. He had been there forever. He was rotting in the fridge. It was time to throw him out, for lack of a better term. And they decided to bring him back because they looked at last season as a huge success. We made it to the ALCS. We won the division. What they didn't look at was the fact that they were so far behind the best teams in baseball, including the team that swept them, and they needed to keep up with those teams by making big changes. They brought back everybody. Their best player gets hurt, and now they're dead. Now they're dead in the water, and they're going to finish in last place.
Yeah, and the weekend was a complete and utter mess. You're going to be looking at the next 5 weeks. I mean, tickets are sold. I don't know how many people are going to be going to the ballpark. Can you think of, and I know when you look at like videos from the 80s and such, Yankee Stadium doesn't look like what we're accustomed to seeing it over the last 20 years. But you might get to the point in September where you've got a half-empty Yankee Stadium. I don't remember it like that pre-90. It's got to be in the early 90s, late 80s, the last time we've seen what Yankee Stadium might look like. That's the one part of sitting guys down that would make me curious. How's the businessman? That business makes a lot of money. And the business of the Yankees, forget winning for a second, the business of the Yankees is a multi-billion-dollar business. I wonder if those decisions are made to keep people in the ballpark coming up in what is going to be a vast wasteland of September, because I don't expect a run. You're right. They're dead. They're buried. Shovel dirt on top of them. Statistically, they're not. When you look at the standing, they're not dead yet. And if you're Aaron Boone or the players, you can't think that way. And I wonder how the front office and ownership thinks, because that's going to dictate, I think, a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time. There's the business side. And you have to think about that and not just the baseball side. And sometimes you have to have a sacrificial lamb to make the fans happy, and that's probably going to be Aaron Boone. Now, I still think that as long as Brian Cashman is there and he's making the decisions solely and he's not having people that are barking at him to make different decisions from the business side, that he's going to keep Aaron Boone there. And I don't know, that's not going to make a difference. What needs to make a difference is all the things we've talked about for months and months and months, and trying to get a real infusion of young players that aren't making $30 million and doing nothing, get a healthy pitching staff for once. I mean, these are the things that they need to focus on. But, right, I mean, and that's asking a lot, though, for the Brian Cashman regime, because those are the two things that he's failed at. They haven't been able to develop the young players, and he's not been able to, outside of Garrett Cole, build a staff with any sustainability.
No, but see, this is the conversation you can have within your own head. Is Nestor Cortez, who was so good last year, is it Brian Cashman's fault he got hurt this year?
No.
Is Carlos Rodon, who was so good last year, is it his fault that he comes in and right out the gate he gets hurt?
Well, I will say, at the time, me and a lot of people who were trying to find the other side of this signing that was being lauded so much said, Brian Cashman, who just traded for Frankie Montas, who was hurt when he traded for him, and is now went out, and his biggest splash was a guy that's had a pretty significant injury history in the past.
Up and down with the injuries, for sure. That is very true. But when you do sign these guys, there is an expectation that, I don't know, they play.
Yep.
You know, now, is Giancarlo Stanton Brian Cashman's fault? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. Taking on, and I know they don't owe all of that contract. I'm well aware. But when you're taking on an aging slugger who really at this point is nothing more than a guy who takes up a spot in the batting order, really doesn't play the field all that much, and doesn't hit. I mean, yeah, that's his fault. You know, Aaron Judge being there is great. Harrison Bader, who we've been lauding, has really come back down to earth. They're not good. Like, their lineup, when you take a couple of guys, you move. Aaron Judge is all world, all good. The problem is he wasn't there for much of the season. The rest of this team, I mean, you know, Bauer, Power, and think what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, Josh Donaldson, the early part of the season, Brian Cashman's fault there, 100%. The catching, I remember last year, the catching with Higashioka and Rortvet.
Yep.
I mean, they're talking about these guys like they had two Johnny Benches. They're fine, but it's not like they're these high. And what was one of them was an all-star last year, but it's like, I don't know. They're just
Trevino.
That's who it was, Trevino. They're just not a good baseball team top to bottom. Rizzo with the concussion thing, that one I can't put on Brian Cashman. So you can have the conversation left and right. The problem is they don't play. And then the guys that do play, they're backups for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they're not stars.
And a new 4-year deal for the general manager means that there is no way that Hal Steinbrenner is going to fire Brian Cashman and pay him not to be the GM and then have someone else be the GM. It's just not going to happen. Brian Cashman is going to be here until Brian Cashman decides that he wants to leave, and there's no way that he's going to leave and retire and leave the money out there on this season. It's just not going to happen. So does he change his philosophy? I remember on Friday we were talking about one of these former Yankee prospects that were slamming the Yankees analytic department, saying that they're focusing on the wrong things too much and how strikeouts aren't a bad thing in the Yankees analytical world, and all it is about the launch angle and the OPS plus and all these things. It's just not working out, and they're trying to make every player into the same guy. And it's hard to argue that because you see the results.
Yeah.
You know, what this team is. So, you know, when the Yankees go into this offseason, you know, just because Brian Cashman has been one type of guy for the last number of years doesn't mean that he can't reinvent himself into this offseason. You're not going to have a new GM, but you might have the same GM with a different mentality, and he has to. I mean, I don't know where they start, because the biggest problems on this team are immovable objects.
All right, so I'll give you where they start. So now, and this is not to compare by any stretch, but I'm going to go back to your conversation that we had about a month ago. And that was what you would do if you were the Mets and Steve Cohen, with the Max Scherzers, with the Justin Verlanders, and to your point a month ago, Francisco Lindor. You would say eat the contract, or as much of you have to get them out of here, and look at that as a savings that they're not here. Okay, fine. So now let's talk about the immovable objects. Giancarlo Stanton. He is clogging up that lineup, and if you think it's going to get better, it doesn't get better. And, Al, I heard you talking about the Balco thing on Netflix, which I watched about 45 minutes of as well. And you look at, guys don't get better into their 30s. Barry Bonds did. Now we know why. And that very good piece, by the way, on Netflix. What the hell's his name? Victor Conti and Barry Bonds and the trainers and all that stuff. So if you think it's going to get better with Stanton, you are sorely mistaken. This might be the best version of him that's left, a 200 hitter that, yes, will have some pop every 20 at-bats. He's going to go through horrible stretches where he can't hit, and he's going to be out there every day. Unless you find someone desperate enough to take him, and you're paying for much of it.
Yes, I could make a case as down as I was on Max Scherzer. Somebody would want him. Somebody did. Verlander, same thing. Somebody wanted him. They went back to his old team. Lindor, obviously, who has been better since I had that conversation, much better, and is still playing and playing hard, and respect to him. Somebody would want him. There is not a single team out there that's going to look at Giancarlo Stanton and say that even if you were paying 3/4 of him, is he going to be worth it?
Well, let me ask you this. Would you have thought that about Josh Donaldson a year and a half ago? There are teams out there that if you're picking up, the Marlins are paying some, and if you're picking up a big chunk of it, Giancarlo Stanton, if you've got to pay, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, $6 million a year for. There are teams that would take him.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be significant. And see, the Yankees don't have that same, all right, they ate the Aaron Hicks contract, but that wasn't a lot of money. This would be
totally
a hell of a lot more money.
But this is 2 steps forward to take back to take 3 forward.
I love the idea. I think that it's great. I just wonder, will there be a team that is interested in him enough to take on any sort of salary, and how much will Hal eat? I mean,
that's the question.
And I don't know if either one of those things are going to work out for them. I mean, really, you could point to this team's downfall to that Giancarlo Stanton trade more than anything else, because there were other free agents that they passed on. And I know that he's been good in the postseason, but for the most part, I mean, they didn't go after these high-priced guys like a Manny Machado or a Bryce Harper. They did go out and get Garrett Cole, but they always knew that as long as Stanton was on that roster and they had to pay Aaron Judge, that they had to keep some flexibility in there. And that's why it ended up being bargain basement Josh Donaldson stuff for the last number of years.
Yeah. And he's been in spots, he's been good, and he's had a couple of good seasons. I don't want to sit here and make it like Giancarlo Stanton's been a complete bust since he's been here. That's not fair. But at this stage of his career, that's what he is. Right now, he's a bad major leaguer. And you can tell me all you want about the power numbers, and yes, I guess at the end of the year, maybe it'll look okay. He can't hit. All he does is strike out. He's batting a 190-something at this point. Do you have any, he comes up yesterday, any confidence he's going to do anything? No. I mean, you're just waiting for him to look at strike one, maybe foul off a pitch, and then swing and miss on a slider down and away. I mean, that's pretty much Giancarlo Stanton at this point. And it's weird because they got at the time an MVP player. He's been good. He's not been that. And it is slowly coming down, and yet you're still stuck with him for another 4 years.
Yeah, I know. And this is why I said, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, that I could easily see both of these teams, in the Yankees and the Mets, missing the postseason for the next couple of years. And I could easily make that case. Now, they shouldn't, and they still got decent cores, and they've got owners that care, and Steve Cohen's going to do whatever it takes, whatever. But he basically came out and said that the team is not going to be as star-studded next year. You could see both of these teams missing the playoffs for the next 3 years easily. Easily. I mean, especially the Yankees. I mean, they're going to finish last. They're going to finish last.
Yeah, and I know their record's better, but they're now a couple of games worse off than the Mets are in the standings for the wild card.
Is this an aberration year, or is this who they are? I mean, to me, this is who they are now. They had their opportunity to get back into the conversation at the end of last year and make the right moves, and they didn't.
I think the hardest thing about being a GM of any team, but when you look at this specifically, this situation, this is what's difficult for me, I would think, if you're sitting in that office. Like, what are they? Like that's the big question that's got to be up on the board. Like, what the hell are we? Is Anthony Rizzo ever going to come back and be what he was? I mean, he had a good start to the season. He's got the concussion issues that nobody knew about, and he basically goes in the tank because physically he wasn't right. Is DJ LeMahieu done? I mean, this guy was a batting champion not too long ago, and he looks like a shell of himself. Is Stanton ever going to be a 260 hitter again and give you 40 and 120? These are questions that they're trying to ask, and I don't know that they can answer. My answer would be no. I don't think he's ever going to get back to that level. You look at all these positions, and so why haven't they fixed left field? Like, at that point, when you're looking the 9 spots, that has been a glaring issue. Is Volpe the shortstop of the future? I would like to think so. You look at yesterday as another example. He looks like he might be a star. Might be. But these are all questions that if you're up there and you got to make these decisions, you don't know the answer to these things.
Yeah, and I'll go back to when you said, we'd be talking on August 20th, August 21st about these two teams being this far out. And how about the fact that the Yankees are 17 games back of the Baltimore Orioles?
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is the thing that you would have said in the beginning of the baseball season that nobody would have believed.
I completely agree.
You would have put the deed to your house up on that one, that they'd be at least probably ahead of the Orioles, but 17 games back in the division as they're cruising to a division title. It's unbelievable.
Like, we're in the midst right now of their longest losing streak in almost 30 years.
Yeah, 1995. Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I would have, and I wasn't around. And it's funny because there was something going on yesterday. I pulled up my BetMGM app in the morning, and I didn't make the bet, and I am glad I didn't. Because I was going all in on them winning yesterday.
Really?
Just because I figured they had an awful weekend. I'm like, you know what? They'll win Sunday so that we'll go in tomorrow and there's really nothing to talk about because they won a meaningless game, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they're winning today. And I didn't do it, and I meant to, and I forgot to. And then we had people over. I look, 5-5. I'm like, damn it, they're going to win this game. And then you see what happened with the run, and and they lose the game.
And CBS Sports Network has the graphic up, so they can get to 1982, which would be 41 years if they get to 9. And then if they get to 11, you got to go all the way back to 19, 11, 12, and 13.
When it wasn't even baseball, let's be honest.
No, I agree.
Were they the Highlanders back then?
Man, oh, man. I mean, This is what we're talking about. This is historically bad Yankee baseball right now. All right, it's Boomer and Gio and Jerry in for Boomer. We're going to talk to CeeLo in a little bit. We'll give you all the sports. Just getting started on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. Oh, the Jack Pocket app. You order official state lottery games right on your phone. Couldn't be easier. You never miss a drawing. You see your lottery ticket right in the app. Powerball, Mega Millions, New York and New Jersey State Lottery, and daily games. It's the #1 rated lottery app in the U.S. for a reason.
Is my mic? Oh, there we are. This is the easiest way to get involved in the lottery. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to get out of your car. You don't have to stop off on your way home from work. Just do it wherever you are. Open the Jack Pocket app. Very simple.
Must be 18 or older. Gambling problem in New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER. See jackpocket.com/TOS for terms.